Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday night. Pretty compelling Monday night football game. Happy to have you guys join us here at the 2-minute warning. We're going to get into what Mike Vrabel had to say about the Titans' offensive line situation, a big talking point for obvious reasons, given what went down in Tampa Bay yesterday, and that we know the root of the problem to be said offensive line group. So we'll do that. We'll talk about who you got in this Monday Night Football game and bring Bert in for in case you missed it, because there's a couple of different things from the football weekend that we have to make sure that we address. Before we do any of that, though, I need you guys to share the broadcast around, as is the custom here on the Primetime Show. If you are hanging out on Twitter, please retweet it. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen is how you do so. If you are on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, Jack Penfold says your airport update was extra grim. It was extra sad. Anytime I do those things in an airport, it just reeks generally of I don't know. It's just a bizarre setting for me to have to do the primetime show in, especially when I'm pissed and yelling about stuff, as I was in the lobby of Tampa Bay International Airport yesterday. But there were things that had to be said, Jack, and we couldn't wait until we got home to say them. So we are going to get into a couple of different things. William Jones says Derek is tired of the same old talk, according to the Tennessean. Well, yeah, according to anybody who was in Derrick Henry's press conference last night in Tampa, as I was. So I have that clip on my phone. But Derek on locker room audio, I need to get a better mic because he's impossible to hear. He wasn't at the podium. So it was not a press conference setting like is typically the custom, which means they really wanted to get out there if they weren't willing to wait for Derrick Henry to finish getting dressed and trot out to the podium the way that they have done basically since he became the full-time starter here. Ben Hall says, Buck, almost seriously, how much could Lewan improve this line if he were to walk out there right now 70 pounds lighter? Well, not at all, because it's not even the weight that is the reason that Taylor is not playing football. The knee is the reason that Taylor is not playing football. The botched ACL surgery that he is currently in litigation over is the reason that he's not playing football. So again, not about the weight as much as it's about the knee. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing started as we get ready to see this game head to halftime at 9-8. We'll see what develops between the Broncos and the Bills. But meantime, welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports studio. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Nobody puts you in position to succeed with your workout plan the way that True Math Fitness does. Zen Sports, plug in the promo code ATOZTN and get your $1,000 no danger first wager. Up to $1,000 is what Zen Sports will allow you to bet on your first bet with that no danger of losing. You'll get your $1,000 back up to a $1,000 bet back when you plug in that promo code ATOZTN in the Zen Sports app. And of course, the law offices of Amanda J. Jentry, wherever justice demands, Amanda J. and her team have you covered. If you are uncertain or if you feel that you are under threat of having your constitutional rights violated, Amanda J. Jentry and her team will make sure that you have the proper protections. Okay, so there's a lot of things wrong with the football team, but we know that public enemy number one, the root cause of all evil at this point with the Tennessee Titans, and I hate to paint it that, villainously, but the problem is most clearly the offensive line. And so Mike Vrabel was asked a ton of questions today about the offensive line situation and how the team could continue to find ways to improve their standing. Right now, to improve the unit as much as humanly possible, or to try and keep the unit upright as much as humanly possible, if for no other reason than to protect the rookie quarterback who is under so much duress. I'm going to read you some Will Levis pressure numbers here in just a second about how different of a player he is under pressure versus not as a rookie, and the reason why it is so critical for this situation to be rectified. Mike Vrabel was asked a variety of different questions, and specifically about Dylan Raidens. Jeremy Graham says of the Tennessee Titans, this team has violated my constitutional rights on Facebook Live. Yes, indeed. And I can understand why that might be the case. But I think that when you hear Mike Vrabel talk about this situation, it'll put some things into context for you in a way that is better than I could possibly do. So the question that we'll ask you to start here, your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, as you hear or see the things that are playing out in front of you, watching the Titans flounder about, what should the Titans offensive line plan be moving forward? How do you feel that they should address this particular situation? I'm not going to, shout you down, whether it's, I'll provide you some explanations for some of the things that I think are feasible versus some of the things that they may or may not be willing to try based on what I know about them and based on the conversations that we've been having with them. What should the Titans offensive line plan be moving forward? You'll hear from Mike Vrabel here in just a second, right after I remind you that your Two Rivers Ford take is presented by Two Rivers Ford. Quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Nobody goes above and beyond for you the way that Two Rivers Ford does. You guys know that I'm a Two Rivers Ford customer. You know that DeAndre Hopkins is a Two Rivers Ford customer. Since moving here to Middle Tennessee, the Two Rivers Ford people are the best in the business. 40 years of operating with honesty and integrity, and they put you in the driver's seat to be in the most comfortable position possible as a buyer. Whether you like to shop online, whether you want to go out to the dealership in Mount Juliet and pay them a visit and work with their non-commissioned sales staff, Two Rivers Ford is always there to get you the best price and the best car buying experience. Powered by Ford, driven by people. That's Two Rivers Ford. All right. So what should the Titans offensive line plan be moving forward? James M. Rickman says flatly, let's not hear from Mike Vrabel. And, frankly, I think that's fair. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm curious to see as we move forward, because it's entirely possible that, here very soon, I'm probably going to pivot to draft stuff, which, respectfully sucks ass because I have no interest in doing tackle analysis, tackle draft prospect analysis from now until the NFL draft in April, even though for the damn fourth straight offseason, really going back to 2020, right? For the fourth straight offseason, I'm going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans and a need at tackle on the offensive line, which drives me insane because it's November the 13th. And so at a certain point, maybe you guys are going to be tired of hearing from Mike Vrabel. Typically, I carry the press conferences on the radio show. If you guys get sick of it, I'm not going to make you suffer through it if that's not something that you're interested in doing. And we can pivot to draft conversations if you would prefer. But I'm curious to see how the audience would. We'll probably put it to a poll question. Speaking of Two Rivers Ford, the Two Rivers Ford poll questions on the radio show. So if you want to weigh in, you can do so tomorrow on Twitter. Whether you want to hear from Mike Vrabel at the podium much more this season at 3-6. Looking at the Titans offensive line situation, how would you handle it? Brian Malone says nothing to do midseason. Draft the best available left tackle. They seem to like Brewer at center, but they need to get bigger, in my opinion. Brewer, I think, is managed. I think Brewer is survivable, but he needs more help, right? You need to have a better guard situation at right guard. Certainly, I think Brunskill is for sure just kind of a Band-Aid, even if and whether Raiden is that player or probably a draft pick is that player. I think Brewer is not the top thing on your list of priorities to manage. If he can execute the offense and he's sound as he is, then I think tackles and help around Brewer should be the priority at this point. See if you could find an upgrade at right tackle if NPF or Chris Hubbard don't pan out. And NPF right now has been underwhelming. William Jones says, I heard Andre Dillard wants to be a saloon door salesman. Well, it's not even a saloon door. Vita Vea just kind of waddled around Andre Dillard on Sunday afternoon in Tampa for one of the most ridiculous sacks I've ever seen. It was the first sack that the Bucs got on Will Levis in that 3rd and 9 situation to end their opening possession, the Titans. And they just trotted Villa, the 4-3 defensive tackle, out to defensive end and say, all right, go beat Andre Dillon. And he just kind of waddled around him. Chris Bine says, Buck, what would your O-line plan be after the season? We can get into that shortly. As the Broncos get a field goal there to go up 12-8. Buffalo's got the ball right now with 40 seconds and ticking. Another interception. My God, Josh Allen. Wow. The 3rd turnover of the game for Buffalo. That is incredible. So down 4 with the ball and giving the Broncos great field position. Josh Allen just throws a 2nd interception on the day. That one was his fault. The other one was a tip drill pick. But man, the Bills just cannot help but turn the ball over. Anyway, we will continue to talk about the Titans' offensive line situation. Let me let you hear from Mike Vrabel, who was asked specifically about Dylan Raiden. So let's start there. Let's start with internal candidates before we talk about guys that they can add in the draft or free agency. We'll do so right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. I go to TrueMath on Tuesdays and Thursdays. In fact, I'll be at TrueMath tomorrow. If you're working out in the morning, 7:45 is when I'll be in. You guys know I love my personal training sessions. You know that they do group fitness classes. And if you're a member, you can have access to their open gym facility, conveniently located in downtown Nashville, whenever you please. Go to TrueMathFitness.com for more information and for your first workout free. So Mike Vrabel, when asked about, so let's talk about offensive line stuff that they have right now. One of those things is Dylan Raiden's, and whether Dylan Raiden's is a viable option as a left tackle or as a starter with this group. This was Mike Vrabel today.
Protocol. Dylan finished the game there and moved around, and Dylan, admittedly wasn't up to the standard that we need, and he's played some good snaps for us. Jaylen Duncan is available to potentially play or compete for an opportunity, and a couple guys on the practice squad.
So Mike there is just going through the list of players that they have, and he brings specifically up Dylan Raiden's was not up to their standard. Now, the smart ass in me says, well, the standard at left tackle has been pretty damn bad here lately. But Raiden's did struggle, and it's a pretty impossible position that they've put him in. But so let's remove Raiden's from the left tackle situation because Kyle immediately says, but is Dillard up to standard? William Jones says it's brown paper bag time, y'all. Stephen Holcomb says, what standard? Sucking. Yeah, I mean, Dylan Raiden's wasn't good yesterday, but like I said, he's in a really tough spot having to fill in and play multiple positions and play a position that he hasn't really played that much since coming into the NFL, even though he played it in college. Jacob Ray says Duncan has potential. Why do you say that, Jacob? Because what I've been told about Jaylen Duncan is that he's probably a better fit inside than he is as a tackle, and that basically without, I can't tell you everything that I was told about Jaylen Duncan, but what I can basically summarize it is that he's not up to speed with where he needs to be able to go out there and execute plays, or to be trusted to go out there and execute plays. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't get there. He's a 6th-round draft pick. He's a couple of months into his rookie season, and he was always going to be a project-type situation. But the way that I can effectively summarize it for you, based on sources very close to the situation, is that Jaylen Duncan would be a stretch at tackle because he is not up to speed. So I think that when you hear Mike Vrabel mention Jaylen Duncan by name, but then also mention guys on the practice squad like Rupchik, for example, who I'm sure many of you did not know existed until he went into that game at right guard yesterday. Yeah, the pickings are pretty slim. Now, what would my offensive line plan be moving forward as this game heads to halftime for the Buffalo Bills and the Denver Broncos with a decent lead here to kick a field goal. We will get into that here in just a second, right after I remind you. They're going to try and get this off with 5 seconds on the clock. 3, 2, 1, field goal. Okay, halftime there in Buffalo. 15-8 is the lead for the Broncos. God, it sucks in that stadium that both teams have to go back into their locker rooms through the same tunnel. It's just such a bad idea. Just asking for fights. Anyway, so what would my plan be in the offseason? We'll get into that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is made possible by the great people at Zen Sports. Plug in the promo code ATOZTN and get that $1,000 no danger first wager. You can bet up to $1,000 in the Zen Sports app at no risk with your first wager. They will get you in on all the action, whether it's the NFL, college football, the NBA, college basketball, or pro hockey. Zen Sports is your place to wager on your favorite major sports. Download the app today. Go to zensports.com for terms and conditions. Rules do apply. Must be 21 or up in Tennessee to bet. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So what would my plan be in the offseason? I know the Scaroni at left tackle stuff. Scaroni at left tackle. Let him figure out left guard. I know it's going to drive a lot of you guys crazy. I just don't think at this point it's worth moving him. I think that it's as important to have him keeping the interior pressure off Levis as it is to have him on the edge right now. The edge pressure is really, really damning. But if they're just going to get there as quickly on the inside and you're picking the lesser of two evils, the interior pressure gets there faster. I think that the safest thing for Levis is to leave Scaroni inside. Because if you move Scaroni, who do you put inside? And the answer is Rupchich or Levin, or I guess Raiden's, who played a bunch of snaps there for Scaroni. They seem really reticent to put Scaroni, or rather to put Raiden's out there. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Trippin' Titan says Scaroni is helping Little Brewer out. Yes, that is also something that is important. If you're talking about an undersized center, the great way to anchor or help that undersized center anchor is to have an absolute horse like Scaroni inside next to him. MB says, Buck, they need to be trying Scaroni out at left tackle, possibly for next year. They don't want him as the left tackle next year, right? They want to draft a left tackle. Now, you say, like, the easy counter to that, MB, and I'm not saying that that's like, I'm just providing you an explanation as to what their logic is moving forward. You may not trust them to draft a left tackle. And by the way, that's completely reasonable. I don't trust them to draft tackles at all right now. The last tackle that they drafted, they just moved a guard, right? So I don't blame you for wanting to see it. But by their thought process is he's not their left tackle moving forward. He's their left guard moving forward, and they'll find their left tackle. It would seem, but not soon enough. So we'll continue to see how this thing plays out. And, guys like Joe Alt and the left tackle from Penn State, whose name is escaping me at this period in time, which it's not going to be able to escape me for much longer because now I'm going to have to spend my time looking up draft prospects at tackle again. Oof. Okay. Let's welcome in Bert for In Case You Missed It. Here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. Wherever justice demands, Amanda J. and her team have you covered. Go to amandajgentry.com for more information about how she and her team will fight for you. In 32 counties across the state of Tennessee, they have practiced in Tennessee family and criminal courts. amandajgentry.com for more information. Hey, Bert.
What's going on, bud?
Nothing. Just watching an actually compelling football game. This is what this is why I'm so mad at what the Titans are, because I think they are now one of the worst teams in the league, and none of these teams are any good, and all of them are able to compete except the one that I watch on a regular basis.
Oh, boo-hoo. I don't feel bad for you. Lots of stuff happened this college football weekend. If you're a Tennessee fan, sorry about that. I blame it all on Will Bowling because when we did our pre-show schedule remix, whatever the hell you want to call it, when you're going through somebody's schedule and you're picking the games, Will said they were going to lose to Missouri. He manifested that. So I will blame all of that on Will Bowling.
That's
Also
fair.
this weekend, I'll be at my first game in Neyland to see Georgia. So that'll be fun.
You're not going to see the Tennessee. You're going to see Georgia. Which, by the way, I would also say that I would wear red and I would, celebrate as a front runner if I was you, if I was going to that game. But I heard you and Lucas are doing boots on the ground reporting.
Something like that. The most of boots I'm going to touch are going to be Slay's at the pregame. After that, I could care less about what goes on. But if you missed this last weekend, Michigan walked into Happy Valley and took their happy ass back with a win. They have an interim coach, and he gave this interview after they won the game with Jim Harbaugh suspended.
Our AD, we got the best players, best university, best alumni in the country. Love you guys. These guys right here, man. These guys did it, man. Talk to him, man. Love you.
That is ridiculous.
Touching moment right
Oh,
there.
no, it wasn't.
Oh, stop it, Molly.
It's ridiculous. It's seriously. Shannon, let me go first.
Hold on, Shannon's on your team with this?
Yes. Let me say this to you. Listen to me. First of all, let me be composed. First of all, look at me. Anytime I see a black coach, particularly one on the collegiate level that has had some success, it is something that I celebrate. Okay. Here is my issue with what we saw. They're acting like victims.
Yes.
How are you a victim?
Okay.
You're acting like a
That's
victim. Who has victimized you? Jim Harbaugh, you have people like myself and others. Again, I'm prefacing my comment on the big if. We don't know definitively, but according to the Big Ten, there's a level of culpability and guilt that belongs to the Michigan program. The president of the university and them, they have to make their case against that. The NCAA potentially may get involved. The if, Dan Orlovsky, is if you are found to be guilty of what they say you are, that you had an assistant that infiltrated other sidelines, that was stealing signs, feeding them to the coaching staff, and the coaching staff fed it to the players on the field to give them an unfair advantage. If those things happen, you cannot be a part of this year's college football playoffs. You cannot, and for all the people out there that want to look at these kids, I get it. But last time I checked, there's kids at Alabama, there's kids at Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas. What about those kids? What if you are a member of one of those programs who have not been accused of such things, who haven't been found guilty of such transgressions, and you are the number 5 team in the country, but Michigan gets a spot ahead of you?
Couple things on Stephen A. One, love Stephen A.
The GOAT.
He
the
is
absolute
incredible.
GOAT. There is nobody in our industry that is better at speaking into televisions or microphones than Stephen A. I don't care if you like his opinions. I don't even listen to his opinions. The man is an artist and he is performative, and I am here for it. So if you cannot respect the opinions, respect the art form, because the guy is chef's kiss.
Also, how awkward must it be for Shannon Sharp to sit in the studio halfway across the country just to go, yes, I agree with Stephen A. And then they just go right back to Stephen A. Like,
Well,
I need him in
they're
studio.
paying a lot of money, and that's how Stephen A. Smith's show is structured, to be very, very Stephen A. centric. It's why I respect him. He is the only person I think that's a bigger narcissist than I am.
And while I agree with him, I think both things can be true, that Michigan has to say these things, right? If you're at Michigan, whose interest do you give a shit about? No, you give a shit about Michigan's interest. You're going to say these things to fire the team up because nothing's going to happen this year. They are going to go to the playoffs unless they lose games. I doubt severely that anything stops them from being in the playoffs.
We'll find out if Ohio State does here shortly.
They have to make it there first, though. I assume they would let it play out, and then if they came in at the ass crack of dawn and was like, "Well, we don't like the way they cheated. Michigan's not in," I think that would be bullshit too. Take it away next year. Who cares? But both things can be true. That is self-aggrandizing. He's crying because he's drank the Kool-Aid. He buys into it. He believes
Sure,
it.
which is why these things are run like a cult.
Yep.
These things are run like a cult. Like you have to have that kind of like not undevoted, but hyper devoted, ultra devoted, like drink the Kool-Aid type of people to be successful. This is why these things get compared to the military all the time, which is a bit ridiculous to me, but still, like, you have to have the cult followers. You have to have the sheep.
And Jacob Ray says it's fake. I don't like fake. I don't think the crying is fake. I don't think that.
No, he's talking about Stephen A. Smith.
Okay.
Nobody cares what we have to say about Michigan. They're still bitching about Stephen A. Smith, which is why Stephen A. Smith makes so much money, because everybody has an opinion on him.
He's taking Colin's spot. Who keeps I almost said the F word, keeps messing up. I don't know how this happens. Every week there's another
Howard
clip.
messed up again?
Every week, dude, there's another. This is like radio people's inside radio. Like, who keeps setting up Colin's graphics for him to look stupid? Wish it was me. Wish he could fire me. Anyway.
Where Colin was wrong. All right. Well, that is in case you missed it. Well done by Bert. We send him back to the shadows. We wrap things up here on prime time to get you back in time for the second half of a pretty compelling, unexpectedly compelling 15-8 Broncos-Bills game on Monday Night Football. Titans YouTuber says you don't think the Michigan acting head coach was fake crying? No, I don't. I think he was just completely unhinged. And that's the level of devotion that these people have in these college football programs. Did you not just see what happened with Connor Stallions, who has a Michigan manifesto and now has this entire program under investigation? It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy to look at it that way. Anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Radio show tomorrow. Speaking of Michigan, the show's attorney, Dan Lust, will be on to explain to us the course of action that Jim Harbaugh now has in front of him and how much this could potentially derail the college football playoff for said Michigan men. Have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. See you guys.
This is our cult. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our cult. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, beat the Titans. Let the world hear us now. This is our team. Go Colts.